Brothers and sisters, welcome to this session. We're very excited to hear somebody who has a lot of experience in this topic, and I'm sure you'll all be very pleased, but I'd like to welcome to the podium Sarah Foutz.
Thank you for being here, everybody. It is a pleasure for me to be here with you, and like I said in the first session, I know you're diehards when you choose the hard seats over the soft seats. So I appreciate you being here, and hopefully we can all learn together and feel the Spirit. A little bit about me is, I do have a disclaimer, actually. First one is I am not a therapist. I'm just a normal person who has been obsessed with self-help from a very young age. My parents adopted a special needs child. My brother, rest in peace, he has since passed away, but a special needs child who caused me to kind of like want to figure out what makes people tick. Specifically at that time, my mom, because I felt like she went off the rails. But because of that, I've also come to know myself and hopefully have empathy for people around me and understand why people show up the way they show up, because I'm nothing special. I'm just like you. I have emotions that sometimes I'm not proud of. Sometimes I show up in the world in a way that I'm like, why did you do that? Why couldn't you just chilled out, taken a step back? But it's because I'm just human. And our Creator created us to feel, and to feel really deeply. And if we weren't supposed to feel things like anger, it wouldn't be a possibility for us. If we weren't supposed to feel deeply, it wouldn't have been part of our physiology. So it's learning how to use those emotions in productive ways, learning from them, instead of being stuck in them and having them kind of rule us. So that's kind of a little bit about me, and because of my interest in psychology, that is my background, my degree at BYU. I then became certified as a life coach, and through the hand of God, met my business partner, and we created this program for our clients that we thought we would use as we coached, but realized maybe this could be helpful for people who wanted to be a life coach, and so we created everything's 12 step nowadays, but it's 12 sessions. And what I am going to share with you today is 3 of the sessions on emotions, and trying to condense it into, family just showed up, hello, into 45 minutes. So if I start talking fast, that's my MO anyways when I get nervous. If I start talking fast, it's because there's just a lot of stuff to cover, and I get excited about it, and so I might talk kind of fast. And the first session, I ended right on time, and so there wasn't really time for questions. So if you have questions, I have a clipboard up here with my name and number and email on it that you can take a picture of. And if you would like a copy of the slides, or a couple of the slides I have in a PDF that I could send you after the presentation, if that's something that you're interested in. So let's get down to business. This is just what we're going to talk about today. I apologize, I'm going to be looking at this the whole time. It's my notes. I don't have my computer in front of me like I normally do. But first, we're going to understand our emotions as part of God's plan for us. We're going to learn how to increase our emotional intelligence, and that's going to be kind of the bulk of the presentation. Then we're going to learn how to process any emotion in 2 minutes, which is kind of the practical application of what we've been talking about. And then lastly, how to develop Christ-like emotional maturity. So the fact is, in the scriptures, there's lots of accounts of people experiencing difficult emotions. And here's a few of them. Nephi was exceedingly sorrowful. The sons of Mosiah, it says their hearts were depressed. The stripling warriors were depressed in body as well as in spirit. And I apologize, a few of the slides are a little skitty-wampus because when they downloaded, they went off a little bit, but you'll get the idea. Alma felt anguish of soul. Nephi, he felt agony of soul, and Mormon felt sorrow all of his days. That's like not a beautiful, blissful picture. And these are prophets talking, well, aside from the stripling warriors and some of the sons of Mosiah. This feels kind of bleak. But when we realize that Jesus also wept, that's part of life. It's what we're meant to feel, is sorrow. And as our perfect example, I love this quote by Elder Uchtdorf. He said, "Life is not an endless sequence of emotional highs. If God himself weeps, as the scriptures say he does, then of course you and I will weep as well. Feeling sad is not a sign of failure. In this life, at least, joy and sorrow are inseparable companions." So isn't that beautiful? Like, you're doing what you're supposed to if you're feeling joy and sorrow both. So what we learned from this is very good people, even perfect people, feel bad from time to time. So you're in very, very good company when you feel bad. You're in company with the prophets and Jesus. So despite the fact that we try to, this is kind of backwards, knowing that they're part of God's plan for us, we still try to avoid them because they don't feel good. But we read it in Nephi that it must needs be, there's opposition in all things. And he tells us what some of those opposite things are: life and death, corruption and incorruption, happiness and misery. And those all make perfect sense to me. Yeah, of course. But the last one, I was like, sense and insensibility, like, what does that mean? Well, our senses is how we interpret the world, how we feel things. Insensibility, then, is the inability to feel, especially to be moved emotionally. So that's the opposite there, is some people don't have the ability to be moved. Other people are very heightened sensory people. And that's how it's supposed to be. Like, we are learning line upon line how to become more sensical, maybe. I don't know if that's the word, but to learn how to interpret our senses and learn from them, gain experience and knowledge from them. So how do we reconcile the fact that there's supposed to be opposition in all things with the scripture that men are that they might have joy? Like, they feel like two opposing things. And yesterday I was pondering this, and I thought, maybe it would be a good idea to go to the temple before this and just like feel a little bit of peace in the celestial room. And as I was listening to the endowment, 4 different times from 4 different people, 4 different occasions in the endowment, it uses the word joy. But from Eve's perspective, I want you to go, next time you go to the temple, listen to what Eve says about sorrow. It is woven into the plan. It is meant to be this inseparable joy and sorrow. Elder Holland has this amazing quote from a talk. I wrote it down because I didn't reference it there. Waiting on the Lord in 2020. He said, Christianity is comforting but is often not comfortable. And he has this longer version of this quote that I think I want to share. I didn't share it in the first one, but it is so good and puts into perspective why we should be open to feeling it all. He said, one's life cannot be both faith-filled and stress-free. It simply will not work to glide naively through life. We cannot say, Lord, give me all thy choicest virtues, but be certain not to give me grief, nor sorrow, nor pain, nor opposition. Please do not let anyone dislike me or betray me, and above all, do not ever let me feel forsaken by thee or those I love. In fact, Lord, be careful to keep me from all experiences that made thee divine. So we're being refined in these hard, difficult emotions and becoming more Christ-like. And we wouldn't ever want to ask him, like, take this away from me, or not take it away from me. I think that's perfectly fine to ask for his help, but to say, never let me feel it in the first place. I love this poem so much that I committed it to memory, but I'm not going to try to prove that I committed it to memory in front of you, but I'm just instead going to read it because I just love this so much. It succinctly says what I'm trying to get across is that joy and woe are woven fine, a clothing for the soul divine. Under every grief and pine runs a joy with silk and twine. It is right, it should be so. Man was made for joy and woe. And when this we rightly know, through the world we safely go. I love that poem so much, especially like the last part. It makes us safe when we realize that that's how it's supposed to be. Because what's more troublesome to us is if we thought it shouldn't be that way, and we're like layering on these all more uncomfortable emotions. Like we might be feeling anger, then we feel shame for being angry. But if we know, like, oh, this was part of it, and this anger is just trying to teach me something, then we're safer. We're in a safer place than thinking that there's something terrible is going wrong. So throughout the presentation, I have a few slides that have red, and that's just for you to think about and maybe write down the answers to those questions. So what are emotions? There's so many different definitions that you can find online. Some are very philosophical, some are super long, some don't make sense, some are childish. But the one that I found that makes a lot of sense to me and is really short and succinct is literally, it's just energy and motion. And I like that it's easy to remember because you take the E, and that means energy, and then it's energy and motion. Just feelings, literally just feelings in your body, usually caused by a stimulus, but oftentimes by our thoughts as well. I want you to think about, and you can yell them out, what are some of the emotions you dread the most? Like if you could just never feel it again, it'd be great. Hurt. Regret. Fear. It's pretty encompassing. Resentment. Shame. Betrayal. All of these are so heavy. You can feel yourself kind of just like, oh, I don't want to feel that. And if I could get out of that, that would be great. What I'm going to show you hopefully will alleviate some of the like dread by showing you like this is how it's supposed to be. This is literally how we were created biologically. Is what's happening inside is something happens. Something causes the cascade of emotion. And in this case, it's impending doom, whatever it might be. Like a boss calls you in for a one-on-one in his office. A spouse says, we need to talk. A car comes careening towards you. You know, it's something. And the thought is like danger, scary, you know. The emotion you might be feeling is fear, but it could be anything, any of those emotions you mentioned. And literally all that's happening is because of this cascade of events here, your body releases hormones. And because of those hormones, you have a response, which is uncomfortable, increased pulse, blood pressure, rapid breathing, sharpened senses. Our bodies were made to do this because we have to be prepared for danger, real danger. But what you're trying to avoid is the feeling, like the physical feeling that the emotion brings. And a lot of times it's the meaning behind the emotion. So what we need to remember is like for thousands of years, our bodies were made to look out for danger, for our protection, our physical protection usually. But now the danger it finds is psychological danger, but it feels the same. And we live in a completely different world than when we were being chased by tigers or maybe fall off a cliff or something. It feels the same. So you can be like, you know what? I'm feeling the same thing that thousands of years of my ancestors felt, but is it as dangerous? It feels like it, but like just lessen it a little bit by recognizing I'm not in a life and death situation. It just feels like it. So what safety feels like is another stimulus, and it can either be like something changes or it can be a thought you have. And you're like, oh, false alarm, phew, I'm safe, finally. So then the emotion you feel is relief or something else. Could be whatever emotion takes its place. But then you have another release of a different hormone, serotonin or oxytocin. Those are like warm, cuddly feelings. And you have a decreased pulse, the ability to breathe, and a relaxed heart rate. So this right here is what we're seeking. This is what we want to feel all the time. You know, right now in our culture, it's like, oh, if I feel bad, something has to change, like I'm supposed to be happy. But the truth is, we're not supposed to be happy all of the time, and there are many instances in our life where it would be inappropriate to be happy. Like, my dad passed away. It would have been inappropriate for me to be, oh, it's good, it's all good. It's part of our human experience to feel grief and pain, and then find happiness on the other side of it, and learn and grow. Like, those difficult experiences not only increase our power of feeling those hard things, but it increases our testimony in Christ, because we rely on Him to get through those hard things and to change our emotional state. So then the question is, how do we get from fear to relief quicker, or whatever feeling that you don't want to feel, without waiting for a second stimulus? Sometimes there might not be a second stimulus. Like, for my dad passing away, the second stimulus isn't until the resurrection. I don't want to wait that long to be happy or to feel good again. And the answer is in raising your EQ, which is your emotional intelligence, which in my opinion is more important than your IQ. So this is what emotional intelligence is: the ability to understand, use, and manage, like through emotional regulation, your own emotions in positive ways to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize with others, overcome challenges, and diffuse conflict. So those are a lot of like really important things that we can learn by increasing our emotional intelligence. And I know some of you might be thinking, well, so-and-so was just born that way. They have it all figured out, and I could never be fill in the blank. That's absolutely not true, and that is something that Satan wants you to believe. It's a talent and a skill that any of us can improve if we just take the time and learn, study, ask Heavenly Father to increase your talents. So I don't want any of you thinking like this is not in your reach, because it absolutely is. So here's kind of just a funny quiz that you can maybe gauge your emotional intelligence by. A, I'm basically an emotional tornado. Everything's spinning. I'm not sure what's going on. B, I can guess how I'm feeling, but I'd still rather binge cat videos than deal with it. C, I can handle my emotions most days unless I'm hungry, then all bets are off. Fast Sundays, anybody? D, I generally manage my emotions well under pressure, but I'm no Zen master yet. And E, I'm an emotional superhero. I sense feelings like Spidey senses danger, and I keep the drama in check. That was kind of silly, but the truth is, we're probably not any one of those all the time. Like, we will be, some days you feel on top of the world. You're like, I've got this in check. And then maybe another day something will happen and you do go down the rabbit hole of cat videos. I don't know. It's just knowing that the ideal is progress, not perfection all of the time. So let's talk about how to increase your emotional intelligence. And I have 8 different ways, and I hope to get through these pretty quickly, but this is the bulk. Number 1, be aware of your go-to emotions and the ability to choose them on purpose. So what I mean by go-to emotions is like your default. It's like your baseline, what you wake up as. And write down, what are the top 3 emotions that you feel generally on a day-to-day basis? Or what is the emotion that you feel when you wake up? And for me, for many, many years, I am embarrassed to say this, it was like annoyed. I just woke up annoyed. And I thought for no reason. I'm like, this is just my emotional state. Sometimes it's more annoyed than others, but it's always just kind of right there. And I didn't realize that I had the power to raise my emotional baseline. But the truth is, we can be positive for no reason. We don't need a reason to be happy. And we can handpick our daily go-to emotions. So if you could handpick any emotion to wake up feeling, what would some of those be? Joy, content, I love that. Excitement, peaceful. It really kind of depends on what you have going on that day. You know, like today I wanted to wake up feeling kind of grounded and confident and capable that I could come here and not like faint. And give my presentation in a logical way. So it kind of depends on what you have going on. But the best news is you fought for agency, you have agency, and you're here and you can change your emotional baseline. The thing that characterizes those who struggle emotionally is they've lost or believe they have lost their ability to choose emotions that make them happy. A lot of people feel stuck, like that's just who I am. How many people have heard that? Well, that's just who I am. Or that's just who they are. They're just a happy person, or they're just kind of an anxious person. We shouldn't label ourselves by the emotions we feel, and we shouldn't label others by the emotions that we see them feel. We see this in the scriptures all of the time, seek and ye shall find. And I used to think that dealt with miracles or answers to prayers. If I seek really hard for this thing, I'm going to find it. But as I've gotten older, I've realized seeking and finding it has to do with everything in our life. If we are looking for something, we will surely find it. If we're looking for a reason to be upset, we'll find it. If we're looking for a reason to be happy, we'll find it. So here is a simple practice to choose your emotions mindfully each day. And it works. In the morning, before you do anything, before you turn over in bed, before you look at especially before you look at your phone, before you say good morning to your spouse, you say a prayer of gratitude. I am alive. I'm here for another day. And this is one of my all-time favorite scriptures in the Book of Mormon. When thou risest in the morning, it's the second half. It's counsel with the Lord in all thy doings. He will, and counsel with the Lord in all thy doings. I'm not going to repeat it, but when thou liest down at night, let thy heart be full of thanks. And when thou risest in the morning, let thy heart be full of thanks. And if you do these things, you shall be lifted up at the last day. I'm like, well, what about right now? Lifted up at the last day, that's a long time, a long time from now. So for me, for Sarah Foutz, how I interpret this scripture, and pardon me for changing the words of the prophets, but I just took off at the last day, and I know I have the power to be lifted up in the moment if I choose gratitude every morning. And it works. I feel like the admonition to be grateful is 100% for us. God doesn't need us to say thank you. He did everything for us because he loves us. He wants us to say thank you because of how good it makes us feel. It will change our perspective. It changes how we show up throughout the day. And then before you get up, before you do anything else, after you've said that prayer, choose the emotion you want to feel that day based on what you have going on. You know your schedule, and put it on for a few minutes before you get up. Try it on. So this morning before I woke up, or before I got out of bed, I'm like, I want to feel this way. And then you try to feel it very deeply, really feel that. We can create these emotions without a stimulus. We can create peace. So what would peace, calm, joy, love feel like? We know what those feel like, but can you take the time in the morning every day to create that emotional state for yourself before you get up and face the day? Number 2, don't identify or become defined by your negative emotional states. I already kind of alluded to this, but basically, you're not your emotions. You don't have to identify your emotions with your emotions, and they're not deficiencies in character. So instead of saying, I'm anxious, I'm lonely, I'm helpless, I am fill in the blank, your default emotion, I'm so annoyed. It's I have anxious thoughts. I have anxious thoughts. I have helpless thoughts. I have lonely thoughts. Or I am feeling anxious right now. I am feeling lonely. I'm feeling scared. Relabel it, and then that puts you in the driver's seat. So that leads us to the next one. Speaking of the driver's seat, who is driving your car? And it might not just be a car for some of us. It might be a tour bus. What emotions are in your bus? And it doesn't matter. If you have a tour bus full of emotions, it means you have a very big emotional spectrum. But who are you letting take the wheel? Who are you letting, if you have a tour bus, they have those people with the little things in the front saying, here we have this, here we have this. Who's speaking into that mic? What emotion is running the show? Where are you going? What are you doing that day? You choose who's taking the wheel, who's talking into the mic. Are you letting your emotions run on cruise control, or are they simply a passenger you drop off? Oh, annoyance, I see you again. You're here. You're with us again. You're welcome. You can sit in the back. I'll drop you off when I'm ready, And they're all welcome, but you don't have to become defined by them or swept away by these emotions or taken completely off track. How many of us have let an emotion kind of drive our day, and we don't get the things done that we thought we needed to get done because It's like, oh, forget it. I'm just feeling so overwhelmed today. I'm not going to do anything. That emotion drove the show that day. Emotions are very powerful motivators, and it's actually been proven that negative emotions are more powerful motivators than positive emotions. And the reason why is because what I showed you earlier is they feel terrible in our body physically. They feel terrible, and we want to get rid of that. We want a lower breath rate, a lower heart rate, lower pulse, all of that. So that's what's driving us to do things, to pursue goals, overcome challenges, make decisions. And sometimes we don't even know it. If we're not aware of what emotion is driving it, we have less power over it. So I would encourage you to get conscious about your emotions. But simply put, they show up, they determine how we show up. They determine what we do, which is everything. Like what we do and don't do is kind of like makes us who we are, makes us how we fulfill our potential in our life. In Alma, he's a very wise man. He told his son Shiblon to bridle his passions. And the next part is so key, because that ye may be filled with love. That is the reason. We bridle our passions so we can be filled with love. Because Alma knew that love is the most powerful motivator, one of the most powerful motivators, if not the most powerful motivator. I would not be here today if it wasn't for love. I love this message. I love you guys. And so, like, getting over myself and the fears that I have of presenting in front of people was overcome by love. So instead of, like, letting my passionate side, like, oh, you're not good enough, you don't have any credentials, people have already heard this stuff, people here are smarter than you, all of those thoughts that are like the natural man, natural woman, can be overcome with love. Pardon this long quote. It's from a talk given by Larry Tippett, who was a religious professor at the Salt Lake University. This is so good. I love it. He said, Alma's counsel to Shiblon teaches that passions and emotions are within our realm of accountability. There can be a moral component of our emotions, just as there can be a moral component of our thoughts and actions. A particular emotion, such as anger, might be moral or immoral, depending on whether it manifests itself productively or unproductively. Only you know this. Unfortunately, some pop psychology teaches we're responsible for our actions and possibly our thoughts, but feelings are beyond our control. We are simply incapable of choosing our emotional state. Such notions are contradicted by teachings of prophets, ancient and modern. We have agency over all of that. What we don't have agency over is the thing that started the emotion, the fact of the situation, the trigger. We don't have control over the weather or when somebody dies or when somebody cheats on us. None of that is in our control, but our emotions are in our control. And he goes on to say, bridling our passions can lead us to examine how our own state of being can lead to solutions rather than to blaming others. New ways of resolving problems open up to us when we're no longer blinded by unproductive emotions. The phrase, be of good cheer, appears over a dozen times in Scripture, and in nearly every instance, the counsel to cheer up comes in the midst of difficult or discouraging situations. So it's like the poem I read at the beginning. It's like joy and woe are woven fine. They're woven together. We can't separate them. And I love that we can also, through awareness, decide, is this a productive or an unproductive emotion? There's both. So what we learn from this is feeling bad isn't bad, but getting stuck there might be. That's the moral component. Getting stuck in unproductive emotions does have a moral component, and it's our responsibility to rise higher. So number 4, understand and recognize your emotional responses. How do you respond when you are feeling something? I'm going to go through a few ways of how we generally avoid processing emotion and see if any of them are familiar to you. Spiral, the rabbit hole, that one's fun. Resisting, like the teapot that eventually explodes. Distracting, pretending it's not a problem, and just like scrolling or whatever it is you do. Or reacting, like throwing a fit. So let's go through these just really quickly a little bit. Spiraling is when you are in overwhelm. You're worst case thinking, catastrophizing. And the problem with that is if you don't realize you're spiraling, it's going to go deeper, 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 deeper. And if you think about the spiral, at the top is Jesus, light. At the bottom is darkness. So it's not that that light doesn't exist. It's that we're going deeper and deeper where we can't see the light. So the trick to spiraling is recognizing we're spiraling before we go super deep. Easier said than done, but that's how we get out of spiraling, is through our perspective. Resisting, I'm sure we've all done this before, where you like kind of tamp down the emotion, and you're like, it's good, it's fine, it's literally, it's fine. And then the next thing you know, you explode. You're like, where did that come from? I mean, everything was fine. It's because it's like you're a teapot, a tea kettle, and all of the pressure doesn't have an escape. So it literally just explodes. So the key is, like when you're pushing against a door and you just open the door and someone falls in, it's like, let the emotion just fall in. It's fine. And then it has this big room to express itself instead of just like pushing so hard against the door. Distracting is something I think that has become normalized because there's so many ways to distract ourselves today. In the olden days, not so much. But today, you can go to the gym, you can clean your house, you can scroll on social media, you can binge watch whatever at your fingertips on Netflix, YouTube. And because they're accepted, so many of us don't recognize their methods of avoiding our true feelings. We need to be honest with ourselves. Why am I doing this? Am I eating or exercising to avoid something, or am I doing it intentionally? Reacting. People often confuse angry outbursts, like throwing a tantrum, yelling, slamming the doors, with feeling their emotions. But in reality, you can process emotions while being still. So it might feel good to slam a car door or to slap somebody. I don't know, I've never actually slapped somebody, but I've imagined it. I thought, man, that would feel good if I could just slap somebody right now. But in reality, that is not feeling your emotions. That's reacting to your emotions. And it, in some ways, can make the emotion, like it feels good in the split second, but you're still feeling it. I mean, it's unprocessed is what I mean. Number 5. Be able to differentiate when you're experiencing an instinctive or an invited emotion. There are 2 different types of emotions. The instinctive is like the raw emotion. The invited emotion is the repeated emotion that comes back. So instinctive is like your reflexive reaction. We have like knee-jerk reactions. That we have the same with emotions. Like all of a sudden you're crying. You don't know why. That's because something happened that's your first response to a direct stimulus or threat or thought. And the way that those happen are individual because of our unique makeup of our experiences beforehand. So my instinctive reaction to a stimulus is going to be different than yours. And this is where empathy comes in, because if we took the time to know people's background and their stories, everybody's response would make sense. Be like, oh, of course she's acting that way. Her parents left her at a gas station for 4 hours when she was a kid, and she's feeling abandoned. That's why this is so difficult for her right now. Of course. So we can say to ourselves, I like the phrase, it makes sense that I'd be feeling this way because, and then find the contributing factor from your life and why you feel that way. On the other hand, invited emotions are ones that you bring into your psyche yourself. We love to ruminate on things. We love like, oh man, they hurt me so bad. It's after the fact. It's our reflection. And we, as human beings, sense and insensibility, we're trying to make sense of things. So we might talk to people about it, but what happens is sometimes it becomes inflated or exaggerated, not due to the circumstance, but it's how we talk about it. So be aware of how you're talking about things and what emotion you're inviting. Are you inviting curiosity, or are you inviting like more anger or more hatred, more rage? What are you inviting? And as long as we repeat the story, we'll repeat the emotion. But the good news is we can invite positive emotions. It doesn't always have to be negative. Like I said earlier, we can choose our emotions, try them on like we try on clothes. How long can an emotion last? Just guess. Physiologically. 60 years. How long can an instinctive emotion, you believe, last? Well, according to Dr. Jill Bolte-Taylor, she's a neuroscience, the chemical response, remember, like the hormones that we experience in our body only last 90 seconds until they fizzle out. So if you're feeling something really intensely longer than 90 seconds, it's because you've invited it back. You've ruminated. And it, depending on your personality type, is going to depend on how long you're in that emotion. And rumination, I call that the human version of chewing your cud. You know, like a ruminant animal, it just sits there, gnawing on it over and over and over again. And as humans, we like to ruminate because we feel like we're making sense of it, but sometimes it's actually making it worse because we're inviting this emotion back over and over in our lives. So understanding the difference between invited or instinctive is important. Number 6, be willing to broaden your emotional spectrum. What is your emotional spectrum? It's like how wide you're willing to feel an emotion on the good and the bad. So like over here, intense elation, joy, maybe like once or twice in a lifetime experience. Like maybe having a grandchild. I don't know. I had my first grandbaby, and it was like one of the happiest days of my life. And then on the other side is like the extreme sorrow, pain that we feel maybe when somebody passes away, or maybe the extreme sorrow that comes from a repentant heart. So how much are you willing to feel? Ask yourself that. What is my emotional spectrum? Do I keep myself here where it feels safe? Or do I believe the poem that said safety is knowing that we can feel the broad spectrum, and that's where true safety is. Christ felt it all. We know that he endured immense agony in the garden, and he also feels such joy when he sees us, and when we come to him, he feels so much joy. So knowing that is the example, there's beauty in knowing and there's no emotion you can't handle because it opens you up to a more colorful life. And again, going back to there's oppositional things. It takes the bitter to taste the sweet. Here are 4 ways to broaden your emotional spectrum if that's something you're looking to do. Awareness. Awareness is so key. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? Be able to accurately name the emotions. We're going to talk a little bit more about this later. I love talking about naming your emotions. There are no bad emotions. Take the judgment out of it. Emotional expression. What is it for you? Maybe jot down what would be a safe way for me to express myself emotionally. Art, music. I used to like pound the piano when I was feeling really intense emotions. Journal, movement, move your body. Practice empathy. Do the it makes sense. It makes sense exercise with other people. Like, oh, it makes sense that they would do that. And then lastly, express vulnerability. Find that safe person in your life, whether it's a spouse, friend, parent, child, therapist, that can acknowledge and accept where you are without judging you. Number 7, choose to be present with your emotion and have the emotional vocabulary to name it accurately. So naming it to tame it. Name it to tame it. There's a researcher at UCLA, Matthew Lieberman, and he did some studies, and he found by looking at brain scans that people who named their emotion, they reduced it. Guess by how much? Exactly. 50%. That's quite a bit. If you're feeling something like super intense and you're like, oh, this is shame. The reason why that works is because like where we feel emotions is pretty deep in our brain. In the center, the amygdala. It's just the small little thing, but it's very powerful. And when we are cognitively thinking about something, it changes to our prefrontal cortex, and we're thinking. So the feeling is back here, the thinking is right here. We're using a different part of our brain. So it cuts off part of the amygdala's response when we're like switching gears. This is called emotional granularity, and it's being like very specific about the emotion, like precise language. And this leads to better coping mechanisms in mental health, less reactive to rejection and failures, more resilience to stress and illness, because emotions can sometimes cause us physical pain, better understanding of emotions and their impact on our judgments, better emotional regulation, improved relationships, enhanced overall well-being. And like I said earlier, it is a skill. Don't think that some people are just born with it. We might be on different levels, but it's something that we can all learn. It's two things. Emotional granularity is knowing both what you are currently feeling and what you'd like to feel more of. So it's not just like naming it, it's like the default. This is what I'm feeling. This would be my choice, what I want to feel every day. So let's talk about what some of the uncomfortable emotions, the distressing emotions might be. We can name it using these broad categories: grief, sadness, guilt, loneliness, low self-esteem. We can use these broad categories, and we can know where they come from. Unmet needs, uncertain futures, unmet expectations, or an uncertain sense of self-worth. And we can see that there's gradients. So like grief and guilt, it might be difficult to know what the broad category is. Sadness and grief, they kind of like merge into each other, right? But even more powerful is getting super specific. What is the emotion you're feeling? So for sadness, for example, it might be underappreciated. It might be isolated or despair. Anxiety is around here. Anxiety is right here. It's under fear because it's an uncertain future. You're worrying ahead of time. I would be very judicious on when you say, I am anxious right now, because it's a catch-all emotion. People use anxiety and depression. Anxiety is like the intense emotion. Depression is like the slower, heavy, but they're kind of the same sides or different sides of the same coin. Stretch yourself. Stretch yourself to say, is it really anxiety I'm feeling, or am I unsettled? Am I feeling scared? Am I paranoid about something? Am I apprehensive? Do I feel disrespected? There's a broad emotional spectrum that is available to you when you really dive deep into the different emotions. And that's, again, going to put you in your prefrontal cortex and allow you to get out of the feeling mind. And the same goes true for the comfortable emotions. So when you wake up, know that you have so many choices. Is that day, do you need high vibes, good energy? That's positive, or radiant positivity. So that's like the joy and the excitement. Do you need to feel empowered and secure with your relationship with yourself or with others? That's the love, acceptance, and confidence. Do you need, depending on your schedule, to be more open-minded and present, peaceful centeredness? That's more the calm, curious gratitude. So ask yourself, what are my needs? What are my emotional needs today? And then go a little bit deeper and choose one. And if you would like these lists of emotions, I can send it to you. You can just write your email down there, and I'll just send you these emotions because, again, I'm just a word nerd. I love thinking, what are the different emotional responses I can have? Okay, number 8. This is kind of where the rubber hits the road, and I have to get through this quickly because we have 5 minutes, but this is how you process. It only takes 2 minutes, so I think we can do this. If you decide to be open to feel anything, nothing can stop you because it's our emotions that cause us to show up or not show up. The emotional reboot has 4 phases. Name it, which we talked about, welcome it, describe it in your body, how it feels, and allow it. Number 1, name it. This is overwhelm instead of I am overwhelmed. Number 2, welcome it. Nothing has gone wrong. It's fine. Resist the judgment that comes with feeling it. It makes sense I would be feeling this right now considering the circumstances. I've felt this before. It's fine. Describe it. Scan your body with curiosity and get specific where it is and the intensity of it. And I find the quirkier and the more unique you can get, the more it releases that emotion. So overwhelm feels like my brain is a ball of knotted up worms on drugs and my heart is a rainstorm of pelting fireworks. That's just something silly, but truly, overwhelm to me does feel like I can't untangle the worms in my brain, and I just feel like they've taken over. And then allow it. So it's going to pass through your body in 90 seconds to 2 minutes, simply chemicals. What I like to do is I go somewhere by myself, close your eyes, breathe deeply, allow the feeling to slow down and gradually dissipate. Remind yourself this feeling has no power to hurt me. My body knows what it's doing. And for me, when I close my eyes and go inward, I also like to kind of watch it, and I imagine the emotion as just evaporating into mist. I watch it disappear. The greatest use of our personal agency may be to determine what sort of inner world we create for ourselves each day. This is key. It is up to you how you feel. And I'm not saying you're going to be perfect every day. I know. Certainly I'm not, but that is the greatest use of our agency. Lastly, I'm going to buzz through this, but how to develop Christ-like emotional maturity. Emotional maturity is knowing the goal isn't just to manage your emotions. It's not just to get rid of it. It's to learn from it. What is this emotion trying to teach me? Secondly, restoring it to something else, like rising above that baseline, choosing something that is a divine replacement. This takes discipline, and discipline and disciple share the same root, which is discipulus, which means instruction, knowledge, or learn from. We can learn from our emotions and become disciplined. It's different than motivation. Motivation is like the short term. Discipline is who you're becoming, what you're learning. I read this hymn at a time when I really needed it because I was not schooling my feelings. They were schooling me. They were taking me to school. But if you want to write down that hymn number, love the words of that hymn. So becoming emotionally mature it can happen in 3 different, steps. The way of the child, the way of the honorable man of the earth, and the way of the sincere disciple of Christ. I'm not going to go through these quickly or spend a lot of time going through these, but basically, like President Nelson asked us to think celestial, we can feel celestial. Thinking celestial is a big part of feeling celestial, but feeling celestial allows us to act celestial. And a telestial way of the child might just give vent to all your emotions, throw a complete tantrum. The terrestrial way might be socially acceptable, like slamming a door or crying unconsolably, but it might not be the highest way. The celestial way would be to strive to eliminate or dispel unproductive emotions and replace them with a divine counterpart. Like, how would Jesus show up here? So some questions to ask yourself, and you can write these down. Is my emotional state drawing me closer to Christ? Are my current feelings inspiring me to become more Christ-like in my behaviors? And finally, is my current emotion productive or unproductive? What purpose does it serve in my growth? And those are kind of like thought-provoking questions that might take a minute to answer. And I wouldn't expect you to answer them when you're in like the throes of emotion, but answering them with curiosity and compassion, but only you will know the answer to those questions. I want to end with a quote from Richard G. Scott that I really love. The challenges you face, the growth experiences you encounter, are intended to be temporary scenes played out on the stage of life of continuing peace and happiness. Sadness, heartache, and disappointment are events in life. It is not intended that they be the substance of life. Your life can and should be wondrously rewarding. So when I think about that in the context of what we've talked about today, how joy and woe are woven fine, maybe the woe is 1 strand out of 8. You get to decide. What does that look like for me? How much? And for different people, like Job, his woe might have been 50%, I don't know, or more. But there is the possibility to see the Savior's hand in all of it, and to understand that because he felt sorrow, we shouldn't think that it's something that we need to shy away from. I am so thankful for the opportunity to talk to you guys about this, not because I'm an expert, but because I feel like when we raise our collective consciousness and our collective emotions, it has a ripple effect out into the whole world. And all of us were put here to create influence with those people around us. And when we take control of that, it empowers other people to take control of their lives as well. And I leave this with you in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.